love it. All right, for those of you listening, everyone now has their lipstick on, so you guys definitely have to hop on YouTube and check out all of our lipsticks. So we look real fancy. All right, you guys, so welcome back to the Business and Bliss podcast. I'm Lisa Kay, and here with my co-host, Jen Conkey.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, hello. All right, today we are hosting an amazing guest. So I'm just going to jump right in and introduce her. Oh my gosh, her story was so great in the pre-screen. I had to tell her to stop telling me more information because I wanted it to be kind of a surprise. So I'll go ahead and jump in. So our guest today is Traci Egan. So Traci, welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm going to share a little bit more about Traci. So you guys, Traci is an entrepreneur, a leader, an HR professional, and a single mom of 3 who is in a constant state of creation. That just gives like a little foreshadowing of how amazing this podcast is going to be today. She's an empowered woman who was a follower of the law of attraction before she even knew it. Today, Traci is going to share her brave journey with each of you and also teach us a little bit more about the law of attraction so you too can begin bringing all of the things you desire into reality. So really interesting show today. And I'm loving the diversity of our guests and our topics already. This has been so fun. So yeah, awesome. Well, Traci, so we're going to turn it over to you and let's just kick off with a little bit about your personal story and your personal journey, and we'll kind of go from there.
Okay. Feel free to cut me off at any point because I can start talking. So I say my journey, my journey obviously started, at the beginning of my life, but my awareness about the journey started, I would say, about 8 years ago. And I talk about the law of attraction because we all actually practice the law of attraction, whether we know it or not. And mine kind of came, I was working for a large corporation, had what anyone would consider, was a very good position. But I really felt stuck and just felt like, gosh, is there anything more out there? And what was happening is I was coming to work, and this only probably in the last 18 months to 2 years at the company, I would get to that front door and I would like, I'm not supposed to be here. There would be this voice in my head saying, I don't want to be here. Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, I would go in.
Goosebumps. Love it.
I would go in, I would do my job, and I enjoyed who I worked with. It's not like it was just this dreadful place, mm-hmm. but I just thought, I'm not, this is it. This is it for me from a career standpoint. I don't want to move across the United States to do something more with the company. I can't uproot my kids again. I'd already done that once. And it was just one of those things that I didn't know it at the time, but I was putting this out there into the universe, or whatever you truly believe. And probably within about, I guess 18 months, different circumstances came into place. At the time, I thought, oh no, these are bad. But really, they were the best things ever. And that's, to me, the universe, or that law of attraction, was working. But I'd never really even heard of the law of attraction before that. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty amazing. So I ended up leaving there and just kind of fell into a company that is currently something I've been doing now for 6.5 years. I call it my side gig. But it's changed the complete trajectory of my life. Because it's introduced me not only to amazing products that have changed my life, but also from a financial standpoint, that's, helped immensely. There's now this hope and these dreams and so on that I didn't have before. But it also introduced me to personal development. And you would think all my years in corporate, the corporate world, that I would have been introduced. And let me just tell you, I was, but I didn't see it. I did not see that as personal development. For me, I thought, oh, well, this will help me in my job with the company and so on. I didn't internalize it. I was very, I guess I just wasn't as self-reflective as I thought I was. And this company introduced me to it in a different way. And bottom line was, I was ready to hear it. Right. I was open at that point in time. And it introduced me to leaders and entrepreneurs and I guess I would call them, motivational speakers. And my very first CD I listened to was a man named Jim Rohn. And if you've never heard of him, Google him. He's amazing. He's since
I have actually, yeah.
yeah. And that was my first thought. And he didn't speak about the law of attraction in there, but everything he spoke to was really the law of attraction,
Mm-hmm.
where we only have control over our own thoughts and feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay,
it is,
no, so it's interesting. I would love to hear just briefly, and I didn't get to hear this in the pre-screen, so I'm eager to hear, but where did you first hear about the law of attraction? And the reason I ask that is because I feel like everyone who has embarked upon this bliss journey, which for everyone it looks a little different and starts, for me it started with The Secret. For you it started with exposure to the law of attraction. Jen has her story as well. Everyone sort of has this way where it, the universe sort of like slaps you awake and falls in front of your face and presents you with the way that you will sort of wake up to this new way of thinking and new mindset. So what was your journey on that?
So the very first that really got me going is somebody gifted me a personal meditation where I reached out to this person, they learned a little bit about me, and they created a personal meditation for me. That meditation was all about bringing about what you think about, right? And that started my meditation journey, and obviously the law of attraction. And then I listened to the book. I don't know if you've ever, it's called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, written in 1937. He actually speaks. I don't know if he uses the word law of attraction, but he speaks to that. So I was connecting that. And then got introduced to somebody named Esther Hicks, also known as Abraham Hicks.
Love her. Love them. Okay.
Right. And that was probably the biggest piece of understanding how it isn't even about what I say. It's about what I think and feel. And that's really what changed it. And so Esther talks a lot about, or Abraham talked a lot about meditation as well, and clearing your mind and putting out there what it is that you want and not putting resistance along with it. Because I feel like, I did that for a long time. Well, I want this, but I don't know how it's going to happen. I kept saying, I'm not sure, how that's going to happen. And she really taught me to understand that it doesn't even matter. You don't even try to guess how it's going to happen. Just put it out there and don't put resistance in front of or in back of it. Just let it flow. And that, along with some very in-depth meditation that I've learned. One thing that kind of happened, again, this was law of attraction. There was a man coming, I'm from Portland. There was a man coming to Portland. His name is Joe Dispenza. And he talks, his whole entire workshops and so on are about the power of the mind and the meditation. And at the time, a friend said, and I didn't know a lot about him, said, are you going to be going to that? And I said, it's just, I'm not in a place where I'm going to be able to do that right now. And I said, but I'd love to. And completely put it out of my mind. 2 weeks before the workshop, I get a call from that friend. She says, you know what? I'm going to gift this to you. I'd really like you to go to that. It's local and so on. And I'm like, that's fantastic. So he really, really helped me understand the importance of meditation and taking it very seriously and really focusing. Now I say that. Yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yep.
Yeah, I did. When you talk about that first meditation experience that was gifted to you, and you're in it, right? You're doing that experience, and what was the aha moment, or what was it that resonated with you that changed things for you?
So this is what changed things for me, but I didn't know it at the time. Okay.
No, that makes sense.
Yes.
It's important for us to know, just in case if it happens.
Yeah. So I was working my side business, but also wanting, I felt like with my side business, although I could get out and, I joined different groups and stuff, I feel like I was really missing that day-to-day interaction 8 hours a day, because my side business wasn't something I could do 8 hours a day. And so I was looking for something. And so I thought, well, I know HR. I don't really want to work for a large corporation. I want something small. I don't want a long commute. And I applied for a position that was below really, what I had in the past. And I thought, you know what? I don't need, I don't need a high level position. I'm going to give this a shot. And I went and interviewed, and I thought, not sure about this. Interviewed again. Still not sure about this. Got offered the job. Instantly, I thought, this is not for me. This is not for me. I'm not going to do this. And I won't go into all the details, but in the 2 weeks I was there, I end up having a dinner with the owner, who then I learned so much more. I mean, he's very inspiring. He's very entrepreneurial. And then I thought, maybe, just maybe, all these things happened. And I ended up moving into the director of HR position in 2 weeks. It's things I couldn't even have thought of, but yet I was looking for a place where, if I'm going to work where I could truly have an impact, where I could use my creativity, I'm working with another entrepreneur, and it all fell together. So it wasn't until I'm telling my sister that story, and I'm thinking, oh, yeah, absolutely. That meditation and that focus in my mind and truly believing, because you got to believe, it has completely turned around my life yet again. I mean, I feel like I've just been this series of transformations in the past 8 years, over just meditating and not putting that resistance out there. And let me tell you, I certainly have. I have had obstacles and things like, oh my gosh, I put this out there and look what's happened. But I've also learned that contrast is really important. So if things don't happen, or things happen that help you realize what you don't want. And if you don't know what you don't want, you don't know what you do want, right?
That's
and
true.
So every time something like that happens, I just thank the universe, or like I said, source, and just say, thank you. That's an experience that I needed. If I go back to my old way of thinking, I tell myself, oh, don't you remember? You don't think like that anymore. You've changed your brain to exactly. So, positive affirmations, and we've all heard where you put things on your mirror and you have them in your car, and those have just become a way of life for me. But I truly think that meditation piece has really helped me create, and I'm continuing to create this life of love. I have a personal coach. She's amazing. Once a month, and it's actually a group, and it's, creating your own life. And she ends that with a meditation. So I've kind of changed, how I've been doing meditation a bit. And sometimes my days are so crazy that the only time I can do it is when I pull into the parking lot at work. And I set my timer for 3 minutes, and I just shut my brain down. And all I just tell myself is I breathe and I ease and I flow through those 3 minutes. And that's really the only words I say.
I'm so glad you bring that up, because, especially maybe for some of our listeners who are newer to meditation or newer to this concept of law of attraction, it can almost be like, gosh, okay, I have to, do this meditation where I don't think about anything else. And how do I even meditate? And what does that look like? And, I think it's to keep it really simple for everyone. There's a quote out there that I love that really helped me get it, which was, prayer is talking to God, spirit, source. Meditation is listening. So,
Right.
You don't have to know what to do. There's not a wrong way to meditate. Of course there's transcendental meditation, and there's all these different kinds. There's guided meditation, walking, moving meditation. There's all these different things. Yes, there's tons to learn about it, but you can't meditate a wrong way, right? It's like you can't pray a wrong way.
Absolutely not.
Thankfully, that's, where spirit jumps in and kind of helps get that message to the right place. So I love that you bring that up, because sometimes for a busy mom, it literally might be while you're in the shower in the morning, you don't have anyone in there with you, or maybe you do. Maybe Stacey will edit that out. Shoot. Okay.
You're just giving Casey more jobs.
You can take the girl out of Kentucky. You can't take Kentucky out of the girl, Okay. Anyway, but even if you're in the shower, your mom in the shower, that's the only time you have kind of to yourself for that day, take 3 minutes and just be still and listen. You don't even have to have, this perfect setup. Just listen, be still. And like you mentioned, set your intention for ease, set your intention for peace, set your intention for joy, and then detach from the outcome. So thanks for sharing that, because it really can be as long or as short as you need it to be. And then there's also moving meditations. People you know, for me, sometimes if I'm like cleaning or doing dishes or vacuuming, I don't know why I'm bringing in all domestic chores to exemplify this, but I tend to like zone out. Or, you know, if you're a runner or someone who goes on a walk, sometimes you like tend to zone out when you're doing those things.
Mhm.
And that is actually a form of moving meditation. That's
Absolutely.
why your mind feels clear after you exercise or after you do some of those, I'm going to call them monotonous tasks, like walking, you know, vacuuming, those things. We don't have to like think how to do it. We just know. And so that allows that thinking part of your brain to sort of tune out, and it allows that open, creative side of your brain to tune in. And so any of those things are a form of meditation. So I just wanted to simplify that for our listeners.
Absolutely. I mean, it can be very in depth, and I would say, you know, not complicated, but where you really, really are focusing, but it can also be where you are just simply relaxing your mind. And the most important piece, I think, of meditation is listening. And like you mentioned, I can use an example that I had. I was just going through a tough time and I was feeling really unhappy. And I thought, you know, you should meditate whether you're feeling good or bad. But I sat down, and through this meditation, I just did not feel like I was really closing my mind down, because I kept going back to that thing, and I kept going back to that thing, that I stuck through it. And at the end, I just, you know, it had stopped, and all of a sudden, this little thing popped in my head that told me, you are in control. And I went, oh my gosh. As I started thinking, I was feeling victimized. I was kind of I had moved myself into this little victim mode, and that completely changed. I mean, I went to, you know what I mean? I got ready, went to work after that. And I mean, it changed my entire day, but it actually entirely changed that whole situation, because it was that mindset. So really, when you get right down to it, meditation helps you change your mindset.
Yeah,
And another person who's her name is Louise Hay, and she has a lot of meditation. You can actually have a guided meditation. You don't even have to do the thinking. Just go onto YouTube. You say 3-minute meditation, 10-minute meditation. There's a ton of.
I love YouTube meditations.
Oh, absolutely. I use them all the time. But the one thing she said, and I do this all the time now, before you go anywhere, if you're going into a job, you're going into a meeting, send love. Just send out love to everyone you're walking into. And so you're setting that energy before you even get there.
Yeah. It's so important. It's so important. And there's a couple of things that you had said, Lisa, about when you're doing those monotonous tasks, and it rang a bell for me, because it's when you're doing those tasks that you don't have to think about. Your unconscious mind just takes over.
Yes.
And your unconscious mind just kind of takes a back seat, which is the little dude that's standing in front that is so obnoxious. So doing those tasks like gets him out of the way, and then you could just do, right? And it also gives you the opportunity while that's happening, you're thinking, you don't even know what's going on. And I have found that when I engage in those activities, by the time I'm done, I have an answer for whatever it was I was struggling with before. And I find it really interesting. And, you know, I've gotten to the point now where, you know, you mentioned all the things that you do as a mom in the house, Lisa, and I can relate. So I have my kids meditating, you know, so they know I come in the morning and I set my intentions, and I'll do the same thing with them when I'm driving them to school and whatnot. And then we have our YouTube playlist that we sleep to at night. And then we wake up to a hypnosis meditation for setting intentions first thing in the morning. Like it's at the end of the playlist, right when we're supposed to wake up. And you know how crazy I am. I have it strategically so that it's like, you know, by the time 8 hours goes. Yeah. So they go out and they wake up to that stuff. Well, in the middle of the day, if things are getting crazy with 4 kids, you know, bouncing off the couch, I'll just say, hey, hold on a second, I got to go. And I will go to my room and I will do 3 minutes. And it's like your mental state shifts. And it does. It changes everything. Your mindset it creates everything for you in terms of, you know, how you approach people, relationships. And I think that when you're approaching a meeting like that and you're sending love, Traci, it's so important, because when you walk into the room, you can see everybody's energy and what mental state they might be in, and to feed into that or be enveloped by it and I don't know, a victim of it. Those are choices, right? So if you can go in and set the tone, it's so huge, and it's something that I have found it works really well too. You had mentioned earlier, Traci, about, you know, your side gig, and I can't spend 8 hours a day focusing on that. And then that's how you got into meditation. And what were some of the things that you did from a business perspective to try and juggle both? having your main director of HR and then doing the side business. And what, are you sharing with us what the side business is?
Yeah, she's
yeah. It's called Neora International. It's a pretty small product line of wellness and skincare, anti-aging. All patented.
All about that.
All about that, right?
I want to age just like Cher.
Yeah, yes, yeah. So how I balance both is, a couple of things I do. So self-development is very important. So every day, whether it's meditation, it's reading, or really a lot of Audible, listening to basically 10 minutes, even if it's just 10 minutes of a good book. And I'm talking, a book that's has some substance. I jokingly say, not Shopaholic Gets Married, right? I mean, those are fun little books, but now I will say.
Self-growth books.
What?
Yeah, books that are evolving you, growing you.
Growth.
Yeah.
Right. But with that, I want to say, and I love, I absolutely love all those types of books, and I read them all the time. But I think it's also okay to escape and on occasion read a book that's just pure entertainment, just pure fun. I don't watch a lot of TV. I feel like I just have so many more important things to do. I really focus on taking care of myself. I love to work out. I'm involved with a gym called Orange Theory. So I try to do that 3 or 4 times a week. So Jen, I really focus on taking care of myself. I have massages scheduled once a month, things that are just very important to me to take care of myself, because I am juggling a lot. So I work way more than 40 hours at my job, but I do have some flexibility. So at lunch, if I need to, make a call with my business, I spend weekends working on my side business. And I love it because I can utilize my experience with law of attraction in both roles, because I lead teams in both roles. And I feel like it really, an example is someone came to me and they were upset because from my side business, because they missed this meeting and they hadn't been able to do this because all of these personal things that had come up. And she called me and she was in tears and she was, I just feel like the entire universe is conspiring against me. And I had to say to her, because I feel like you got to be honest. If you think it is, then it is. Because you're putting it out there.
Or it's confused. The universe is confused. You're saying, I want this, but then you're thinking all these negative things. So it's like in a stalemate. It's like, well, what the hell do you want me to do? I'm confused.
Exactly. And my daughter, she can get really hung up on things and like, I'm having the worst day and this has happened and this has happened and this has happened. And I said, okay, we need to calm down for just a minute and try to think of one positive aspect that you can concentrate on. Even if it's that I have a full tank of gas in my car, whatever it is, because she kept saying, there's nothing, everything's going wrong. But if you can just focus on one small, tiny little positive aspect, even for 2 minutes, you can start changing your mindset. You can start changing what you're attracting, because as she's putting those things out into the universe, I said, you're just going to attract more of that. It's like if you need money and all you think about is how you don't have money, you're just attracting that lack. You're focusing on that lack rather than the thing. It's all about gratitude and appreciation and so on and knowing what you have. But sometimes you're in a spot where you can't think of one good thing. Yeah. So, number one, I say take a nap to shut that down, or to really find one little thing you can focus on.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
I love that. It's interesting. Wayne Dyer says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Absolutely. My favorite thing.
So it's so simple and you're always like, it's interesting. So I think one thing I want to go into is you talk about, like the example with your daughter, and I'm sure that this happens with people on your team, like you mentioned, when someone's in that tailspin, you probably can sort of see it now, see the tailspin happening. As a leader, what is your top tactic to get them to start to head their boat, going with the flow, heading their boat with the stream instead of upstream?
No, that's perfect. So I would say in my side gig that happens more because, this is a business where you're out there and you get a lot of no's, right? People that aren't interested or don't believe it, whatever. And if somebody has a particularly, harsh situation that happened, I'll say, okay, I'm going to give you a couple minutes to feel really bad about that. You know, if you need to just feel really bad, that's okay. But then don't live there. You got to get out of it. Because then, I mean, again, and I tell them, and you're going to just keep attracting those things. I've been there. I've done it. And I said, so let's talk about the things that have happened this month that have helped build your business, because there's always something. Or I'll say, what are you doing to help build your business?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you were counting on this one thing and it blew up in your face, then let's just regroup and let's look at a new way to do it, because you have the capability. Everyone does. Everyone is on an even playing field. You have the ability to change whatever you want in your life, about your business, your personal life, money, whatever the situation, but only you can do that. And it's how you, and it's all about how you feel. And if you are constantly feeling negative or disappointed, or this doesn't work, then it won't.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that's, if it's something, particularly difficult, that's what I'll say. That type of thing, let's give it a minute to feel bad and talk about it and what went wrong. And then we don't even talk about it anymore.
I love that, because what you're doing is again, and you used this term contrast. I'm going to go back to that, because that might be a new concept to some of our listeners.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're doing by acknowledging the bad feeling is you're understanding the contrast, right? So it's okay to talk about it in the short term. It's okay to say what it's not going well, because in another podcast we use the word research, but it's this concept of, okay, I'm figuring out like all of this crap that I don't want, so that then I can start to get that out of the way and then start to set the intention of what I do want. Right. So I think this is such a critical skill set. And for someone who's new to law of attraction or new to meditation, I don't want it to be overwhelming, but it's really about, if you're in a situation, whether it's personally, at work, if you're, like you mentioned, Traci, you were walking into the office every day and you're like, why am I here? I'm not supposed to be here, but maybe it's not your time to transition right now, whatever it may be. The point is, if you're not living at your highest level of joy, these are simple tools and tactics that can start turning your ship around in the right direction and have you going more with the flow and experiencing more joy in your life. Mm-hmm. So powerful. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. And I would say, it's so easy to get caught up in those stories that what's happened to you. You know what I mean? How it's, and you can, as you continue playing those over and over, you give them energy.
Mm-hmm.
You give them life. And it's so easy to do that. I think back to many years ago, really good friend of mine, we'd get together and we'd talk. We had little kids and so on. And we would talk about how we're so poor. We just don't have the money to go do this and to do that and so on. And we actually argued for our own limitations. I mean, I think back to that now. Of course, I didn't realize it at the time. It was camaraderie. She was my friend. Number one, neither of us were poor. But, we didn't have all the extra money that other people had. We aren't able to do this. And I mean, that completely stopped and that moved away. But it wasn't until I moved away and didn't have those daily conversations that I realized I was just perpetuating that life of lack. And
I love that.
You don't even know it.
You were almost arguing over who had more lack.
Yeah.
It's kind of comical, and it's very common.
I'm more broke than you are. I'm
so broke, I can't even afford to pay attention. Like, yeah.
Right.
It just happened. Right.
It's interesting though, Traci, you bring up, because, there's the concept out there of the 5 people you surround yourself with sort of starts to determine, the trajectory of your life. And so, it is interesting for everyone to sort of take an assessment, right now, like, who are the people that you're having conversations with regularly? What are those conversations about? And I think too, just because I experience this sometimes with my clients, sometimes it's a spouse or a teenage child, or, a mother, their mother, it's someone who lives with them, or a family member. So you can't always necessarily get away. So I do want to talk about that because, you know, sometimes for people, you can say, okay, I'm not going to be friends with that person anymore, or, you know, I'm not going to talk about that subject with them anymore. And then you don't see them for a month and it's fine. But when it's someone in your close proximity, it's a little bit tougher. But what I want to encourage people to think through is that's really, it's really just a challenge. That's all. It's really just a way to sharpen your skill set. It's a way to practice, and it's a way for you to, you know, Marianne Williamson talks about in A Course in Miracles, it's really like a psychological mind training. It's training your mind to choose to think positively versus negatively. That's all it is. And you get to choose in every moment to give away your happiness or to not give away your happiness, regardless of what's going on around you.
And I agree. And start small. You know, like, let's say there's someone in your life and you don't find them particularly lovable. They're difficult to love, right? And if you're having a really hard time with that, well, don't go straight to that person and say, okay, I'm just going to send them love. I'm going to change everything with them. Don't do that. Start small. You know, start small. And
start with yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Start with yourself. And love yourself. I mean, that's the most important. I mean, people talk a lot about, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this. Well, I think you don't have time not to. I mean, you can't sacrifice time because you having that time for you is making you better for everyone else. So that's really important. But I agree. You know, a good example is, you know, I love my parents. They're awesome. And they're pretty progressive and so on. And they have some strong political views. And it's not even that I disagree with their political views, but there's still a lot of negative energy about it. And I finally said to them, I said, you know what, you guys, I love you, but the more you talk about this and you're so upset about different things that are happening, you're just creating more energy about bad things happening. And I said, so I'm choosing not to talk about it. I'm choosing really not even to think about it. Because right now, what's most important is how I feel. And if, you know, I have to be on that high flying disc, or I will go down, you know, along with where you guys are at. And I don't want you to be there. And you know what they said to me this weekend is you're right. I agree. We don't need to talk about it. And, you know, she can post all she wants on Facebook, all of those types of things. That's fine, you know. But at the same time, I don't want to get mired in that, because then I'm not the best person I can be. And I'm not the best daughter for them. Not the best mother, you know, all those types of things. So it's really just looking at people with love and knowing that, you know, they have a story. You don't necessarily have to hear it or know it, but just love them where they're at.
And what's important is that can translate into business, right? You can send your clients love. You can send your team love. I mean, and obviously every work environment is different. So if you're like, okay, guys, I'm sending love today, you know, you might be like, awkward, what's going on?
Right.
Maybe not. I used to tell my team that, but they were cool with my weirdness. But, you know, you can do that, right? In your mind, you can say, hey, I'm sending them love, or use whatever word you want to use. You know, I'm wishing good things for my team today. Or, you know, as this person comes into my office for this meeting, you know, I know we're going to maybe talk about some tough things. Like, I'm just setting an intention for ease. I'm setting an intention that they're open-minded. Or, you know, as you're developing your team, hey, you know, I'm setting the intention that I will have the right words to say to help them develop, to help them grow, right? So there's so many ways. I guess I just want to make sure I'm connecting the dots for our listeners. Like, this is a mindset shift, and yes, this impacts your life, but this absolutely can apply to your business. And what you talked about, you know, manifesting abundance for yourself, manifesting these really incredible opportunities, manifesting amazing talent for your team. Like, set your intention. And this absolutely can apply to your business. It can apply to your career. And for those of you who are feeling stuck, you know, like Traci mentioned, say, hey, I want to feel ease. This is how I want to feel instead. And know that the universe is conspiring to make that happen for you. And if you think we sound woo-woo, then, you know, I dare you. Just try it. You know, I mean, what does it hurt? I dare you to try it and see what happens. So I started trying it with manifesting parking spaces just because it was fun. So, you know, you can really start anywhere, right?
Yeah. You know, honestly, that's so funny. I was thinking last night, is because I knew we were going to be doing this. That was the very first thing I started with, was parking spaces. And now it is just an expectation. It does not matter where I am. Downtown Portland, parking is insane. I never even worry about it. People say, oh, parking's going to be awful. Really? Not for me. It won't be for me. And honestly, it's, and as I was, listening to, some of the YouTube videos and so on, I remember Esther Hicks saying, the thing is, you've got to stop being surprised about it. Because if you're surprised, it means you don't really believe it. So you have to just start expecting it. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've done. And
yeah, like, awesome. Of course that happened.
That's awesome.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I use that for business too, in terms of mindset. So I will sit there, and before I'm going to meet with a client, even before I get on the podcast, I think about the person that we're going to speak with. I think about the client that I'm interacting with. I think about, them, their lives, their mission, their purpose, where they've been, where they are, where they want to go. Mm-hmm. And then I try to visualize myself helping them get to the place that they want to go. And then what would that look like? How can we do it with ease and grace? And I know that, there's a lot of grit and grace, don't get me wrong, because you got to work pretty hard. Yeah. And I think that the trying to get through the grit to get to grace and ease is where the challenge is, and that's where we learn the most. So I try really hard to think about, okay, this is the client that I'm meeting with today, and this is what I think that they need. But how can I envision myself actually finding out and discovering and then helping them close that gap for themselves? And so if I actually take that time, and it might only be 3 minutes. If I take that time and think it through, and then literally visualize myself in an associated perspective. It's not like I'm watching myself, but I'm through my own eyes, like GoPro. I see myself, I see the client, just interacting, and I visualize what that looks like, the tone of my voice, what I'm saying, body language, and just really trying to impact their mental state if they're feeling in a bad way, and try to get them to the positive side. And then how can we work through it? And then I have found that every time I do that, it's more genuine, and it actually helps them better. And then they come back. So, and I can continue to help them, and then it changes their life. So I'm like a huge advocate of mindset. It literally can do anything for you. And mindset is everything. It's everything.
Right. Well, and it does. And so it can have awesome consequences or not so awesome consequences, right? I completely agree. And I think to be very aware and appreciative of the little signs, of the little things that are happening in the universe. Just even those, I think back, I was running some errands and I was in a town I didn't know. And I'm like, oh, dang, I need to get this to a post office. And my phone was on 1%, so I couldn't Google where the nearest post office was. And I turn around and there is a mail person right there on the side of the road sorting their mail. And I go up, can I give you this letter to mail? And sure. So, and I listen, I just said, oh, thank you so much for conspiring for that to happen for me. So really just appreciating and being thankful for those little things. Those are signs, and those are building to bigger things. But it's just putting, like we said, putting it out there. And Jen, I agree. When an example would be someone who's sick or ill, and you start, I can think, oh my gosh, what an awful situation. I feel horrible. And I have to stop myself and say, oh, I'm just going to envision them healthy and happy. And, whatever the case. And you change that rather than, oh, those poor things. It's more, I'm going to send positive vibrations because this is how I'm going to picture you. I think that is so much healthier than.
Yeah, because our energy is all interconnected anyway. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And, when you mentioned, people are going to go, oh, this is all woo. But really, and I get that. I've been told, oh, yeah, you're Pollyanna, Traci. You're just going to, but I'm like, yeah. And I just go right along with it because, it impacts me, and ultimately it will impact them as well, if we have a close relationship. So it's very important that I pay very attention to how I feel. And I think that's true for everyone.
Yeah. I think it's important to have the routines, right? So it's about routines, discipline, and following it, and taking, like what you said, taking care of yourself. So self-love, it should be a priority, because the self-love leads to mindset, and then leads to how you impact others. And I think that if we all establish a routine where we can get connected to ourselves and make sure that we are prioritizing ourselves, then it does trickle down to everybody else. If we fill our cup first, then we can fill everybody else's cup. And that's just something that I try to live by.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, you know, and the things that we do, because I remember, at least in particularly my side business, you know, I hear people talk and they'll say, you know, you have to sacrifice this, you have to sacrifice that in order to, you know, make your business work or whatever. And I think that has a negative connotation to it. I don't look at one thing that it's a change. You're just changing. It's changing your mind on what's important. It's prioritizing.
Sure.
You know, it's kind of like when people say I don't have enough time. Well, it's really actually your priorities are different. Your priorities are different than mine. It's not a bad thing, but call it what it is, because we all have the same amount of time. And so I think that's truly, you know, that mindset. And when you look at, oh, I get to change the way I do this. No, I can't binge watch this Netflix, even though everyone says it's awesome. And that's not a sacrifice. I'm changing.
A choice.
It's go to this meeting, and every time you make that decision, you think, oh, I'm so glad I did that, because of the, you know, whatever, who you met or what you gleaned from it or whatever that piece. So again, mindset change from sacrifice to change.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Right on.
Well, Traci, this has been amazing, and I really hope that we have opened at least one person's eyes to a new way of thinking, a new way of shifting and creating joy and positive things in their life. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I do want to make sure our listeners know how to get in touch with you. And you guys, Traci has shared she is more than happy to talk with anyone about law of attraction or her manifestation journey, what that looks like, and also to share more about her amazing skincare business, which I did want to highlight because I'm a wellness nerd, that it is a plant-based product line. So for those of you who are, you know, really looking for cleaner products out there, this is a great place to start. So Traci would love to share more information with you. You guys can get a hold of her. Check her out on Instagram. She is at Living My Best Life 14, and I can confirm she was just in Hawaii, so she was definitely living her best life. So again, that's on Instagram, Living My Best Life 14, and from there you guys can connect with her and talk more about what you need. So Traci, thank you for your time. We loved having you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Awesome.
Traci.
Cool. All right. Well, have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.